Good evening and welcome to the Warren City School District Board of Education meeting. It's the regular meeting of Tuesday, September the 22nd, 2020. The time is 6:04 p.m. We are in WSCN studios at Warren G. Harding High School with board members zooming in, and we are live streaming available at warrencityschools.org. This is a meeting of the Warren City Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participating via email during the meeting as indicated in agenda item number 11. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order, and if everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we could please call the roll.
Mr. Faulkner. Mr. Falley.
Here.
Mrs. Patterson.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Present.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Here, and Mr. Faulkner hopefully will be joining us. He has a prior engagement with his church community, so he'll be zooming in when he is available. At this time, we have no need for executive session, so we will move on to agenda item number 4, which is communications. Mr. Shiro.
Thank you. I have several communications. All should be short in duration. The first, we sent a communication out about a week and a half ago to families on a half sheet for our Cohort A, Cohort B students that on our calendar, our annual report that we send out, which we submit in June, we had tentatively scheduled for a waiver day for tomorrow. Our communication was confirming that there is no waiver day, that tomorrow would be a regular school day. However, being that it's a Wednesday, that would be a remote learning day for students in grades K through 12, and preschool will continue as usual. So it would be a regular Wednesday as we've experienced since the start of the school year. Second, this past Wednesday on the 16th, we conducted home visits across the district. It was a priority day for home visitations. We visited between 250 and 300 homes across the district. We were aiming to make contact with families who haven't been attending consistently, or have been under attending, or many other reasons. Also just want to check on some students. So those home visits were a success, and that was conducted all across the district by our building administrators, our school community liaisons, teachers, educational assistants. Noon aides and crossing guards went on visits in some buildings. So it was a great grassroots efforts from individuals from all across the district checking in on our children, and we thank everyone for their participation. We will plan on doing that again here in the near future. I had a couple questions that came forward that I'd like to add as communications. There's a question in regards to homeless students in the district. Homeless students' education and families experiencing homelessness is an area that is, we have a dedicated employee who takes care of that, and that's Jill Marola in the Office of Community Outreach and Grant Development. Mrs. Marola has given me an update recently that we have 48 students that are currently identified as homeless. Some are in shelters, in missions. They may be doubling up with other families due to circumstance. These students do receive the support of the district funding-wise, transportation considerations outside of the norm, oftentimes gas cards or other items for their families to ensure that their educational opportunity and experience should continue as seamless as possible. So Ms. Marola has provided this information. Again, the devil's in the details with something like this. You know, we have 48 students identified at this time. It's the students that aren't that are really the concern for us, that we have not been able to locate, find, or identify, so we can provide the support needed to give a better opportunity for student success. But we have been working on that. And another question or comment that I encountered over the last week was in regards to middle school band and choir. Those programs have been suspended because there is not a safe, known way for students to be able to participate in such programs during the coronavirus. So we have done that for the first 9 weeks, and we will reevaluate There has not been any steady health department order or guidance that says that those opportunities can be done in a safe manner. There has been, with some level of capacity, high school activities in these areas. The students are older and they've had more experience. They're not learning. They should be more crafted in those areas. So there has been some opportunity for students or some courses, with band and choir. But at this time, it was not advisable from health officials, and we followed, as we've done consistently, that advice. So I wanted to share that with you as well. One other item I wanted to share is a communication. This was in regards to help desk ticket submission. We have provided support for families and for students during the day regarding with us moving to a hybrid and full online learning educational program. And part of this has been dedicating staff members, whether they're technicians, curriculum folks, teachers throughout the district, in their capacity to help families. The concerns that come in really two different areas. One would be in technology. Another would be in the curriculum part of the work, maybe losing or not being blocked out of passwords or programs that we use. So depending on the nature of the concern, then that call or that ticket is transferred to the people that can handle it best. A little bit of data that we had. There's two areas that folks have been reporting in their issues. One is by filling an online help desk ticket submission, and one is by contacting the school, the number of the lead secretary. Of the help desk tickets we had so far, there's been 251 from August 24th until last week. 95% of them have come in during the regular school day. So only 5% of the concerns have come after 4 o'clock p.m. And of that, another 3% came. So between the start of the day and 5 p.m., 98% of the concerns have been submitted by email. Also, those that have called the phone number dedicated for each building, those are usually addressed by the building secretary or transferred to someone or a return call for help along the way and for resolution to their concern. So I want to make everyone aware that there are systems in place and that we are working towards that. I believe the numbers I've been given are indicative of the fact that we have process in place. It's not perfect. Never claimed our programs would be, but so far it's working. The system is working. It's going to take time, and it's going to continue to take time. And my last communication I wanted to share outside of the superintendent's report is a review of enrollment. We have a reduction in enrollment this year, and we're seeing a very interesting trend that 91.4% of our student loss in enrollment from last year to this year at this time is for preschool, kindergarten, and first grade students. The rest of it, the other 8.6% of a reduction in student, is from grades 2 to 12. So really and truly, students in grades 2 to 12 are attending and enrolled in our district at the same rate. I have to say that this clearly is contributed to, and it's an assumption, it's not a fact, but I would think parent concern for their young children during a pandemic would be a reason for this. So we have seen a reduction in preschool enrollment. We have seen a reduction in kindergarten enrollment. Again, programs are not mandated, as well as we've seen a reduction in first grade student enrollment. That is predominantly 91.4% of our enrollment decline comes from those grades. So we do anticipate that to change over time and after we work through the concerns with the pandemic. So if there's any questions on those communications, I can entertain them now, or we could move on.
I don't have anything. Do any of the board members have any questions?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 5, which is the adoption of the agenda, and I will entertain a motion.
I so move.
I second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Fally,
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay, item number 6, the treasurer's report.
I just want to go over, I have a couple items that are on the agenda today. First of all, the biggest item that I have presented to you is your permanent appropriations. And for fiscal year 2021, we did a temporary appropriation measure in June of 2020. And there's not a significant difference appropriation-wise between June and the permanent one we're passing now. What we are seeing mostly is increase in our estimated resources. In June, we took a very conservative approach, not knowing what kind of funding cut we would get with the state foundation funding. We have since found that the governor has decided to freeze at the level that we were cut after the pandemic, after the May budget cuts. So with that, we've gained about 4.9 million in our estimated resources. So currently, we have all funds estimated to receive 170,088,000. And our total appropriations are just shy of 115 million. That gives us $55 million dollar cushion. And I would just say that there are still some uncertainties in our expenditures and what savings that we may get on, operating in a different environment due to the pandemic. So we'll continue to monitor the budget as we go through the year and adjust accordingly. But currently, I'm projecting out about a $38.5 million carryover into fiscal year 22. And then the other item for discussion, we previously talked in, I'm not sure what month the board meeting was, about changing up our investment strategy and moving dollars to Farmers Trust. And so I presented an agreement for you to approve tonight to go ahead and make that transition.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, that's all I have.
Does anyone have any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, thank you. All right, agenda item number 7, Superintendents Report.
Superintendent's Report, I just wanted to say this evening, I just wanted to talk for a minute or so, and if Mr. Lacey would like to add anything, and he's welcome to do so, he's here with us this evening regarding the Willard Roof Project. The Willard Roof Project, the best way I could summarize it is in every area that they remove the roof, they are finding the sheet metal, it needs to be replaced, wood needs to be replaced. The project continues that everything that they are removing is damaged. And this is slowing down the project. I believe it was the on-site manager that I talked with on Friday with Mr. Lacey just to get more of an update. And clearly, the project's going to take longer. Clearly, it's going to cost more than anticipated because they keep peeling that onion and it seems like the onion's rotten. And again, the focus has been on that area of the K2 wing seemingly and that back corner of the building, which I believe was the area we had the greatest level of concern. So addressing that, when we say before winter, there's no guarantees at this point that this project will be done before winter. We may get a large part of it done. They may suspend the project till spring for completion of the areas that they feel has less of a concern with it. Also wanted to add that on Labor Day weekend, and I believe it was Labor Day when we had 4 inches of rain, we had 6 classrooms that received water damage at Willard midway through the project. Mr. Lacey, Mr. Shimko, myself, principal, as well as 15 maintenance folks. We spent our Labor Day at Willard, or at least a portion of it, trying to make sure that we had minimal loss at that time along with the project. So it has continued to be the project that keeps on giving, but I wanted to keep the board updated on that, and we will continue to provide updates along the way. But at this point, there is no fiscal update we could provide to it other than everything they peel back, everything needs replaced. It's not like replacing the shingles. So,
Yeah.
Mr.
Wow.
Mr. Lacey, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, we're Sean, Shimko, and myself are meeting with the leadership team of Boak & Son tomorrow about 12 o'clock, as well as with the insurance company regarding the finalization of what their insurance will be paying for the damage that was done. I think fortunately there wasn't much damage in hardware, computers and projectors and such within the room, which I was very thankful. So a lot of ceiling tiles and some other things. So, but yeah, it's just again that our fear is they won't be done by the time snow flies. So we'll see.
So if I could ask, the work that they're doing right now, is that impacting our students at all over there? Are they able to kind of keep the noise level down while?
The noise isn't the biggest, has not been a problem. Michelle has said that the kids have kind of worked through all the noise and they don't even notice it anymore. The biggest factor we have to really watch is just the safety factor, because the part of the playground, that playground area where they're at right now, there's only one real access point. So we're kind of making some accommodations between the classes and the workers and the buses, and making sure no real major removal of things is going on right during the time they're dropping off or picking up kids.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions regarding the project?
How is this affecting our budget right now?
I think we had a little feedback there on you, Mr. Walker. How does it affect the budget? Was that your question? Yes. How does it affect the budget?
Over budget.
Way over budget.
But
Yeah.
if I could add, we obviously have been setting aside money in our capital projects fund. So we transferred over $1 million this year to that fund.
Okay.
So we're fortunate that we have a cushion.
Very good.
I'm back.
Hi, Mr. Faulkner. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, you're just in time because we're on Board of Education committee reports. Do you have anything else, Mr. Shiro? Was that it?
Yeah, that concludes
sorry.
the update. As I said, that
Okay.
we are unable to provide a financial because unless we cost it out every sheet of metal
Yeah.
versus, I mean, so it needs to be, that information needs to be provided as they're working on through the project.
Well, and I think we've all been through the roof at home situation,
Yes.
where they peel it back and then you discover what's really underneath,
So as they get through it, we'll provide that information as soon as it comes together. But again, we have provided for money in capital improvements along the way to make sure that things like this are taken care of.
Okay, thank you. All right, so agenda item 8 then, Board of Education committee reports. Up first would be athletics. Mr. Nicholson?
Good evening, everyone. We're going to start off with, we met last week with the Athletic Council, and two of the things we discussed is the finalization of the tennis courts and also the softball field. We're waiting on some lumber. The only thing that remains to be done are the roofs on the dugout, and they should be done in early October. We talked about when would be an ideal time to have a dedication for these two venues, and it was decided that we would do it once the season begins in late March. The benefit of doing that is we can have the kids there along with their coach, some parents, board members, and other community members to have the ceremony. So we're going to dedicate the tennis courts and the softball field sometime late March. You will be getting an invite. Football playoff format, we talked about that briefly. This year you could opt in or opt out of the playoffs. We definitely opted in. They determined new regional boundaries based on the number of teams that opted in and opted out. I know the two Massillon schools, Perry and Washington, both got shipped down to the Columbus area. So our region, there's one really tough team, and I think the rest of it, we can play with most of the teams. So football radio and live stream broadcast. We have been broadcasting our games on AM 1570 this year. We got away from 1440. They had somebody buy the channel and didn't want to put high school sports on anymore. We've been struggling with the broadcast, connecting back to Cleveland. They don't have an engineer providing services during the broadcast. A lot of the advertisements are done on a laptop where Steve Luca would push a button to play the actual advertisement. Have a lot of difficulties with this working smoothly. Therefore, I had a friend of mine that reached out to Tim Vaughn down in Salem, Ohio. He has 2 radio channels. They're going to take over the broadcast this week. We think it's going to be a far superior broadcast. It's going to be a professional broadcast. And I'm getting the word out to people that we will be on AM 1220 and 96.9 FM. That has been posted on the WGH Athletics website. We've posted it on the Mollenkoff Facebook. Franklin Bozak has posted it on the school website, and we put it out on my Twitter feed. So we are going to have broadcasts, and I'm also told that they have live streaming access, so that information will be on there too, on how to live stream the broadcast on those 2 channels. So we're looking for a much better broadcast this week than we've had the past 4. Raider mascots, as you know, that there was some discussion on, the mascot, the attire that the mascot was wearing, and Dante Capers is going to interject and talk about how we formed a committee to review the attire, and he'll discuss, the logic behind it and kind of what we've come up with.
Sure. Thanks, Bill. And as a follow-up to conversations that actually started at the July Athletic Council meeting, Mr. Shiro followed up at the August Athletic Council meeting and expressed the desire of, this board to suspend, at least for this year, the practice of having a student dressed in Native American attire upon further review. Mr. Nicholson and I were asked to form a small committee to determine how we would move forward with still having a student representative for athletics this year. More specifically, examine some attire options in lieu of the Native attire. It was important to not lose the tradition of really having students still participate and fulfill that role, particularly carrying our W flags as a sign of pride for our fans, and also encourage our football team to really kind of fight and that fighting spirit there. Past practice has been that the student representative would follow the team as they ran out on the field with that W flag, that W flag would be on display after a score. The student rep would wave the flag from the sidelines after a big play, and then also lead students in various cheers and chants throughout the game. So the committee was comprised of Assistant Principal Janice Ulisny, Band Director Reed Young, Cheer Advisor and Athletic Secretary Don Harper, as well as Mr. Nicholson and myself. And we met several times to discuss and select attire options. This has been, since communicated again over the last month or so to the board via Mr. Shocko. Bill, back to you.
Yeah, we've been preparing to include a student flag bearer at the September 25th game versus Ursuline, which will coincide with the first game where the new band uniforms will be worn. There were tryouts the last 2 days that Mr. Young has informed Mr. Capers and myself that they have selected a student, and that will be released at 7 p.m. tonight, I guess, through the band site that Reed posts information from. So, we've selected an outfit that we feel the committee, that this feels will represent our school well, and be a nice complement to our new band uniforms, as well as our cheer attire. These items are in the final stages of preparation. We sent some pictures earlier to Miss Tracy Preston, and I believe she was to forward those to you guys to have an idea what the attire looks like. Did everybody receive that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And what we're missing on that right now is, we're going to put a W in some locations. We're going to put Raiders on the front. So we're going to bling it up a little bit. We felt that it would be
That's important.
right, simple. Hey, just like the football field, keep it classy. So
Okay.
yeah, we're hoping that the people that we deal with in Newton Falls that do this screening of the outfit are going to be able to turn this over quickly. And our goal is to have that individual there bearing the flag this Friday at our football game.
Very good.
Okay, very
Is
good.
there any concerns or comments about the outfit?
I don't have any. Does anyone? have any? No?
No.
No.
Oh, thank you very much for the subcommittee's work. It's very much appreciated.
And if I can just reiterate, again, this work, I want to thank them for their work and taking the time to dig into it and to examine the tradition of what takes place, and also to engage a student as a spirit representative, which has always been the case, and to do so in different attire. That is what this is about. This is about the student representative on football game night. That's what their work was specific to, not changing other aspects at the district level. So thank you all for your work.
Very good.
Thank you, guys. Very good. Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, item B, the finance advisory, we don't have anything.
Nothing
No.
at this time.
No.
Okay. Board policies and guidelines,
I don't have anything.
okay.
I'd like to, I'll reach out to the board representatives for board policies and guidelines. Karen and I met with Neola about a month ago. Again, that coincided with the start of the school year, which took our priority. So we probably will be ready to meet with you guys, hopefully between now and the next board meeting. And then we would look to put policies, updates on, but some of them are from my end of our work and updates, and some I believe are from Karen's. And so Karen and I will get together and try to get a date in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Legislative, I don't have anything. Regina, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay. TCTC, Mr. Faulkner.
Yes, I have some great news to report tonight that the TCPC students, they won first place at the animal management competition. This is first place in the whole country, and of course, we do have some students as a part of that. That's Kathy Billock and that group. So they sent out a thing that it was also in, I believe, Business Journal and all that. And so they won first place in the animal management competition. So,
Wow, that's awesome.
Sorry, guys, that's my phone.
It's okay. All right, do you have anything else, Mr. Faulkner? That's it?
I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anything under old business?
I do, Patty.
Yes.
I was going to say, and maybe the rest of the board can help me with this, is that I think the update that we received from Bill and Dante tonight concerning the Raider mascot and the attire, I think that about clears up the question that we had on that we were going to discuss at a later time.
Okay.
I think, that's
Okay.
my opinion.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, they, once again, we addressed it in athletic council. And then, they were given the task of, forming that committee to have some further discussion. So, I think what they came up with was definitely, needed at this time.
Yes.
And so I would agree. Okay? Do we have anything under new business? Okay, nothing. Thank you. So let's move on to treasurer's recommendations. On page 3, item 1, Mr. Fowley, please.
It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the September 2020 board meeting minutes be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 4, item 2, Mrs. Patterson, please.
The monthly financial statement, it is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the August 2020 financial statement and short-term investments made by the treasurer during August 2020 be approved as submitted. And that is Exhibit A on pages 31 and 32.
Do you have a second?
Yes, I second.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this? Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 6, item 3, Mr. Faulkner, please.
The appropriations budget is recommended a resolution listed below to approve appropriations budget A be approved as submitted.
I second.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this? Okay, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay, on page 7, item 4, Mr. Walker, please.
Fiscal year 2021 permanent appropriation measure, all funds. It is recommended the resolution listed below for the fiscal year 2021 permanent appropriation measure for all funds be approved as submitted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding this? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner,
Is he there? Oh,
Mrs.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
yes, and the motion carries. He disappeared for a moment from his seat. But you're back, right? Okay. Okay. All right, let's move on to Superintendent's Recommendations. On page 8, item 1, Mr. Fowley, please.
Change in location of the regular board meeting. It is recommended the resolution listed below, changing the location of the regular board meetings listed below from the Administration Building, Harriet T. Upton Room, to WSCN via Zoom with live stream available at warrencityschools.org be approved as submitted. And this is for the October 20th and November 17th and the December 8th meetings of the Board of Education.
I second it.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this? Okay, I think this is the safest route moving forward, especially since flu season will be upon us as well. And I know that everyone has their, own personal things happening, and this is just, I think, the safest way. So we'll continue proceed as we do.
Patty?
An additional board member can join me here, but I would really only like one, obviously, because this space is much smaller than our traditional boardroom. So that's that, okay? Yes, and Mr. Fowley.
So after December 8th, will there be a change in the law which would allow us to meet via Zoom in 2021 and enact business?
At this time, you will be meeting in person. There is no change in the law thus far.
Thank you.
That would be up to the governor
Yeah, that'll be up to the powers that be outside
to
of
change that.
outside
And
of
as
Warren.
of right now, it just goes through December.
That's
So,
correct.
Yeah. And then, of course, we would address that at the organizational meeting. That'll be the first meeting in January, okay? All
I do
right,
have one question.
yes.
If we have any other meetings for any special purpose, they will be also in the same format.
Yes,
correct?
yeah, and so any meetings that we would need to have moving forward will be this format, okay? All right. Okay, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay, on page 9, item 2, Mrs. Patterson, please.
Agreements, contracts, and/or leases. It is recommended the resolution listed below, entering into agreements, contracts, and/or leases A through E, be approved as submitted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay, and let's move to page 11, if I can get it here. Item 3, Mr. Faulkner, please.
Memorandum of Understanding between Warren City School Board of Education and the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 95. It is recommended the resolution listed below be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments regarding this? Please call the roll.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay, on page 12, item 4, Mr. Walker, please.
Memorandum of Understanding between Warren City Board of Education and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 95. It is recommended the resolution listed below be approved as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding this? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 13, item 5, Mr. Fowley, please.
Payment in lieu of providing transportation for non-public school students. It is recommended the resolution listed below approving payment in lieu of providing transportation for non-public school students to and from school for the 2019-2020 school year be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 14, item 6, Mrs. Patterson, please.
The revised salary tables J, classified supervisory, and K, exempt classified employees. It is recommended the resolution listed below adopting changes to salary tables J, classified supervisory employees, and K, exempt classified employees be approved as submitted with changes as recommended.
Second.
Thank you. And any questions regarding this resolution? Okay, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay, on page 15, item 7, Mr. Faulkner, please.
Ohio Department of Education certification for Ohio Teachers Evaluation System and Principal Evaluation System is recommended. The resolution listed below regarding the Ohio Department of Education certification for credential Ohio Teachers Evaluation System and Ohio Principals Evaluation waiters be approved as submitted. You have the names listed under the OTAS and the OPAS.
Second.
Thank you, and congratulations to those individuals.
Yep.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. And on page 16, item 8, Mr. Walker, please.
Okay. Acceptance of gifts. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding acceptance of gifts be approved as submitted. And we want to thank Apostolasis Honda, Believers Christian Church, Bella and Canvas, and Miss Linda Fabrizio and Miss Jan Losey for their gifts to our students and our community.
Second.
Okay, thank you again to our benefactors, even during these trying times, the community still comes out to support our students, and that's a wonderful thing. Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mr. Fowley,
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. On
He's ready,
page,
Mr. Fowley, to handle the hard names. I can say Apostolasis.
See, you just did, though. You did okay.
Yeah,
You did it. You did it fine.
You did
When
it.
the pressure was off, you're great.
no.
All right, on page 18, item 9, Mr. Fowley, please.
Tuition reimbursement. It is recommended the resolution listed below for tuition reimbursements be approved as submitted.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. And let's move on to page 19, item 10. Mrs. Patterson, please.
Personnel recommendations. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding personnel items A through L be approved as submitted. And that will take us over to, I believe, page 28.
Yes, page 28. And we have one military leave of
Yes.
absence, so we want to thank that individual for their service to our nation.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Miles Bassard, and
Mhm.
I think that is it.
That was it. Mhm.
Okay. Does anyone have any, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you. And does anyone have any questions? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay, we will move then. We don't have, I don't have any public participation via email. And there is no need for executive session, at this time. So I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes. Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at 6:46 PM. Thank you to everyone for joining us via Zoom and live stream if you joined us. Be safe and have a good rest of the week.
Okay.